I should be writing number 475 for Tuesday, January 14th, 2020.
Well, I should be writing. I should be working on my craft. I should be writing. I should be submitting my next draft. But I'm sitting home watching Doctor Who.
Hi there. Welcome to I Should Be Writing, the podcast for wannabe fiction writers. I'm your host, Mer Lafferty, as always. I've been thinking about the evolution of writers and how we all change. I've picked up, I think I've talked about this before. Oh, I apologize if I'm repeating myself, but I've picked up a couple of Stephen King's older stuff last year and reread them with great gusto and appreciation and a recognizing of his early flaws. But his plots were incredibly engaging. He just had masterful ability to hook me and keep me entranced the whole time. And I know a lot of people will list a couple of his books back then and mention, he was totally high when he wrote half of them. He didn't remember writing a couple of them, and some of them make no sense. I still like them. And I've picked up more of his recent books, and they don't grab me. And this is, I am aware enough to realize that he has grown as a writer, and I've grown as a reader, and what I've grown into does not appreciate what he's grown into as much. Which is kind of sad because, I'd really like to be into his stuff. I haven't cracked open the Institute yet. I do have that one, so I'm interested to see what happens when I give that one a try. But, the Dr. Sleep didn't do it for me, and Joyland didn't do it for me. I don't know. Just his later stuff hasn't grabbed me. I'll sit down and read The Long Walk in one go. But the thing is, one thing it makes me think about is a lot of times, especially now with how easy it is to publish your stuff, people wonder why writers don't continue writing in series that maybe the publishers don't want, but it's easy for the writer to do it. For example, I wrote a book about superheroes called Playing for Keeps, and I had more books planned, only the publisher, even though it earned out real fast and it sold pretty well, the publisher didn't want any more. So I didn't get to write book 2. And people have asked me about that over the years. And I had a realization recently that I wrote this almost 15 years ago. And I'm a different writer now. And I don't even know if I can go back to that world. I don't know if I want to. The same with the Shambling Guides. I'm not as removed from them, but I don't know if that's something I want to go back to. I'm thinking ahead to new stories. And that's the problem. That's one of the quintessential problems between readers and writers, which is, when people ask a writer what their favorite book is, well, they should say their current book. Because if you're not excited about the book you're writing, then, you've got a problem. But the reader always wants to hear something else. I mean, I reread The Stand last year, and The Stand was King's, 4th book? I can't remember. It wasn't the books he wrote compared with the chronology of coming out is different. But it was a very early book. And yet, so many people still say that's his best book. And I heard him quoted one time saying, "How would you feel if someone said the best thing you ever wrote was 30 years ago?" Almost 40 now. And yeah, I would not like that. I want everyone to think that the next thing I write is the best thing I've ever written. I've even got that worry about, will the next thing I write compare to Six Wakes? Because everyone's going to compare it. Especially because it too is a murder mystery, only it's very different. A lot of times when you're starting out with something, you've got a crazy passion. I'm thinking of like early Green Day. Even their album before Dookie. And it's like what they've turned into have been a lot more polished and a lot more thought-provoking. I mean, American Idiot was a really interesting rock opera, but it lacked the crazy passion of early stuff. And that's the thing about the growth of creative people, which is as you learn the craft, things are automatically going to change. Your raw passion is refined, and anybody who fell in love with that raw passion may not be too excited about the refined. And that's okay. You still got to write what you want to write. Because if you don't like it, it's probably going to show. And if it doesn't show, well, congratulations for being a real pro, but you're not going to be happy. I mean, who wants to sit there and write a book they don't want to write? Ugh. But think about this when you see yourself growing as a writer. If you wonder, it's hard to see it, by the way. It's like, people have said they like my voice, and I'm like, I have no idea what my specific fiction voice is. No clue. But other people can see it. And therefore, it's hard to see your own evolution. But if somebody says they're not really into what you're working on now, if your brain is anything like mine, it's going to think, oh God, I've gotten worse. When the truth probably is you've grown and changed as a writer, and they've grown and changed as a reader, and now you don't quite meet in the middle. And that's okay. Hopefully you'll find a new audience, and hopefully they'll find a new author to follow. Anyway, that's my deep thought for the day. MightyMur@gmail.com and Murverse.com is how to find me, and you can support the Patreon at patreon.com/MightyMur. Really appreciate your help, and if you can't help, then maybe tell a friend about I Should Be Writing. Spread the word. It's free, it's friendly. Listeners are good. As I mentioned yesterday, I have a convention this weekend. I will try to get podcasts up this week. I'm not sure. I do want interviews done, so hopefully I'll be able to grab a couple of those. But not hopefully, I will see you tomorrow, because tomorrow's Wednesday and I'm not leaving yet. But I'll see you then, and until then, you should be writing. Remember, you can support the show at patreon.com/MightyMur. I Should Be Writing theme music provided by John Anelio. You can find more about him at johnanelio.com. This podcast is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Share-alike license.
But